who are smart and intelligent can still fail in their schooling. Many famous people who have done great things have still failed in high school and even in college. What do grades exactly show, though? Grades really only show your ability to take in information. The definition of ability is the power or capacity to do or act physically, mentally, legally, morally, financially, etc. But grades only show their ability to take in information, which only shows their intelligence. It doesn't really show their ability or their potential for doing a job in the future. Many famous people in history never even made it through high school. For example, Bill Gates left Harvard at 20 and started Microsoft. Thomas Edison, only a few months of formal school, his mother taught him the rest, and he went on to become a genius inventor. Simon Cowell, the executive television producer and entrepreneur, dropped out of high school at 16. Henry Ford didn't do well in school. He ended up making Ford Motors. Soichiro Honda started Honda Motors. He didn't do well in high school either. And then there was many actors: Lucille Ball, Jim Carrey, Tom Cruise, and Sean Connery. All did bad in their schooling. And then the painter Vincent van Gogh, who studied, did bad in high school. Shakespeare did bad in school. Peter Jackson, the director of Lord of the Rings. Many singers did. Ronald Reagan, Albert Einstein, and the Wright brothers. They all did bad in school. And I have a whole list of people, and there's more that really did bad in high school and their schooling, but it didn't show their potential. It didn't show their ability to do stuff in the real world or to do a job. Because grades only show what a person's ability to take in information, not a person's ability to perform a job. And we're not grading people on what they're good at. We're only grading them. We have grades for math, history, logic, stuff like that, but it's not really showing what they're good at. It's only testing them on the basic things. They can't judge a person on what they're good at if they're not even testing them at what they're good at. Another thing to think about is that a person who is good in tests might get an A just because he's good at tests, no pressure. But a person who might be really smart or able to perform a job might be really bad in tests. For example, someone who might go on to become a famous producer or something, he could do bad in tests because he's got so much pressure on him, but still he could go on to become a famous movie producer or something like that just because he feels pressure in tests, so he could do bad in tests. Other people who end up don't do well in the real world could do really well in tests because they have no pressure. So grades don't really show a person's ability or their potential to do stuff in the real world.
Is that it?
Okay, so in your speech you mentioned a lot about how we should get rid of grades and how a lot of famous people did not have good grades, but you didn't actually propose a different plan. So do you have a different plan?
I think that we should do more career tests. Like, there are many career tests that show what people would be good at or what people like to do. And people are not going to want to go into a job if they don't like what they're going into. So, I mean, see what people like to do and then test them based on that. Don't test them based on math, logic, history. They might not like any of those things. I mean, you like movie making, and there's no test for movie making. You could go to become a famous movie producer, and none of the tests that you take in high school would have anything to do with that.
Right, but you have to know, like, say, Algebra 2 to get a high school diploma, so you have to be able to pass those things.
But it doesn't show their ability to do stuff in the real world. It only shows they could do bad in high school, they could fail high school, but they could still have the ability to do great things in the real world.
And would you see this being something that would take place only in the Carolinas or the whole country?
I would say the whole country because, I mean, it's not only affected, there are standardized grades in all over the country. It's not just affected in the Carolinas.
How long do you think it would take for it to become, like, in effect?
I think it would take, it wouldn't take, like, I think it would take no more than 30 years. But, like, it depends on how cooperative people are, because people are uncooperative and they're resistant to it, and people just don't want to change from standardized testing. Then they're just gonna go on and they're going to keep doing their own thing. But if people are really cooperative, then it'll take a lot shorter for time. So it really depends.
You mentioned that grades don't really matter when you get a job, but I think they do. They show your ability to work hard. So in a job, you need to be able to work hard. And do you honestly think that someone will want to hire you if you don't have good grades in school?
I don't think they'll want to hire you, but you could still do well at the job that they're asking about. You still have the ability to do well.
Right, but people won't want to hire you if you don't have good grades.
They might not, but I think that they should also just see what you're good at. Instead of just saying, you have bad grades, we're not going to hire you. I mean, think about Albert Einstein. If the U.S. government had just said, you got bad grades, we're not going to hire you, we wouldn't have had the atomic bomb and we could still be in World War II, honestly, because if we could still be fighting over there. And we could have lost the war too, if they had just done it based on their grades.
We didn't bring back the back wheelchair.
Good job. Did you write down the time, Mama? Okay, good. I was like, I just said it.
Ready, Megan?
Yes.
5 minutes tonight.
Hi everybody, I'm Megan Johnson and I'm going to be taking the negative side of this debate. And I would like to start by stating our resolution and defining the terms. So our resolution is grades are inaccurate yardsticks of students' abilities. Grades is defined as a degree or step in a scale as of rank, advancement, quality, value, or intensity. Inaccurate is defined as incorrect or untrue. And abilities is defined as power or capacity to do or act physically, mentally, legally, morally, financially, etc. My opponent has tried to tell you that changing the grading system would be beneficial to students across America. Though this may be partially true, in that many grading methods used by teachers, such as grading on the curve, are not completely accurate, many parents and students alike would be upset with the change because there will be a loss of continuity. I, on the other hand, believe that the grading system should remain the way it is, with changes to the amount of kids in each class. Now I'm going to present 3 problems with my opponent's plan and why his plan would not work. Giving an assessment of each individual child's progress in each class would take a lot of time that teachers do not have. The process of grading is faster, giving teachers time to grade their students' work, but also allowing them enough time to be with their families. Also, parents like having only to look at their child's report card and know how their child is doing academically, especially if they have full-time jobs. They may not have enough time to listen to an assessment from their child's teacher on how well their child does or does not retain information. Because of the amount of children in American public schools, the grading process is the most accurate way to assess a student's academic progress, even though it may not be completely accurate at demonstrating a student's abilities. The National Center for Education Statistics estimated that in the fall of 2013, that about 50.1 million students would attend public elementary and secondary schools. And my third point is that teachers are not able to learn enough about each individual child's personality to give an assessment of that child's capabilities, due to the number of kids in the class, which is around 25 students per class. And now that I have given you the problems with my opponent's plan, I'm going to present my solution. I believe that the way to fix the problem of grades in the public school system is not to change the actual grading process, but to reduce the size of the classes. The average size of an elementary school class, departmentalized classroom, in North Carolina is 20.6 kids per class. This would not only benefit the teachers, but the students as well, by allowing the teachers to focus on getting to know each individual student and not just trying to keep all the kids in the class under control. And you might be wondering, how would this work, and where would we get the funding for all this? In order to carry this out, we would have to pass a law restricting the maximum number of kids per public school class. And to put this law into effect, we would have to hire more teachers and build more classrooms. To get the funding for this, we would most likely have to increase the taxes of families in the state or states where this law would be taking effect. At first, the state might be upset because of the extra money they are having to pay to keep this law in effect, but I believe that most everyone will eventually be satisfied knowing that their children are getting a better education and that they are in a smaller, more focused class.
You said it would take too much time to go through all the students and individually find out what their abilities are, but what if they took automatic testing online to find out what they're good at, what they like, and stuff like that, and then the teachers wouldn't have to take any time? What if we did that instead of having individual?
I think that would take even more time for us to set that up and make that something that would happen, because and we have to be, like, all students have to be tested on, like, science and math. You have to be tested on that as a student. You can't just, unfortunately, you can't just do the things you love all the time. You have to do certain subjects. So there has to be a way that you can be assessed.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we should only test on what they're good at and what they like, but I mean, we shouldn't, why should we put a person in a certain job or say that they can't get in a job just because they're bad at one thing, and even though they're good at another thing? I mean, why should we grade them on whether they're good at math or science when they're not getting into a career like that?
I see what you're saying. I definitely see what you're saying. But it is required that that everyone, all students take the same courses.
You also said, what if we reduce the number of teachers for your plan? But if we reduce the number of teachers, wouldn't my plan work? I mean, with less people in each class and more classes with less people, couldn't the teachers get a better idea of what each student was good at?
I actually said that we had to hire more teachers because we're going to be making the classes smaller.
Okay, but if we were making the classes smaller, wouldn't individual teachers be able to assess what they would know each student better, and they would be able to better assess what the student was good at, right?
Right, but they're still in a social environment where they're with their peers, and so they're subject to peer pressure. It's the most accurate way.
Okay.
Okay.
No more questions.
That's it.
So do I just...
Okay, so yeah, it'll take 1 minute to just wrap it up. Don't forget to...
In conclusion, I have shown that grades are inaccurate regard to students' abilities because they don't show what people are good at. They grade them based on a general standardized test, which might not affect their potential for performing a job. Also, that there are many famous people who have done great things and have the ability to lead, but they actually didn't have any skill in school at all. And finally, that people that are good at tests might get good grades, and people that are just under pressure in tests might get bad grades, but they might be totally different in how smart they are and how able they are to perform in the real world.
Okay. You know you have a full minute to talk for at least a minute. Do you want to try to keep going, or?
I haven't really have anything else. I was just trying to wrap it up.
Okay.
Mom, can you read stuff?
Yeah. Ready?
Okay, so although my opponent here has said that grading may not be the most accurate way to assess a student, I believe that it is, given the amount of kids in the class and the teachers and their education. I believe that grades would become even more accurate if we were to reduce the amount of kids in individual classrooms. And although it might take a really long time for this to be accomplished, I think the impact it will have on the kids and their ability to learn and keep good grades will be tremendous. And that's all I have.